Some of the latest research now shows, in addition to visualizing the outcome, visualize the obstacles. And in the past, when we talk about this law of attraction, no, don't visualize the obstacles, you attract them to. No, your brain's way smarter than that. So
this video is sponsored by Brand Crowd, and you'll hear more about them in just a moment.
There's a lot of things I want. I want to get out of this relationship, or I want the relationship. I want to have better health. I want to have more money, whatever it may be. And they've been saying that for years. And they feel like they've been consuming all the information they need to have, but they haven't been able to take action. Maybe because their why isn't powerful enough. What would you say should be their first step?
Well, the first step is to take one thing. I'm going to go back to one thing.
Yeah.
And say, great, let me move one thing forward. Why? Because that just changes the trajectory of the same pattern repeating itself. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you interrupt a pattern, and then you repeatedly interrupt the pattern, it's like taking a detour. And as soon as you take a detour one day, you're like, okay, that was okay. Right. But your tendency is to want to go back to what's comfortable. But if you take the detour 2 days, 6 days, 7 days, we know from a neuroscience perspective, it takes about 66 days to create a solid enough neural pattern that it'll go from conscious effort and thinking about it to a non-conscious pattern that has the beginnings of automaticity happening without your involvement. You're just doing.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I do, and for myself, is whenever I want to change something, whether it's a habit, whether it's a thought or emotion or a behavior, I say I'm going to work on this for 100 days. Not 30 days, not 21 days, not 66, which is right around there. I say 100 days. Yeah. And then I focus all of my energy just on that one thing for 100 days. Why?
Can you give an example of something you've done recently? Sugar.
I'm a sugar.
Me too.
I'm a sugar, like if he was an alcoholic, I'm a sugaraholic.
Me too.
Right?
It's so bad.
Yeah. So I go like, a week, 2 weeks, no sugar.
Yep.
Then a month, I eat dessert every night. Then 90 days.
Me too.
Like a cake and cookie and 5 of them a day. And then
the same way. I can be very disciplined, but it's either way.
Yeah. I'm an extremist as well, right? So it's all or nothing, high or off. It's like no in between, right?
If you have one, you have a dead.
Yeah. I don't have one cookie. If there's only one cookie, I go, no. Can I have like 6 or 7 more? My cookie bills at hotels are $21, not $3.
So keep replenishing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you take one thing, just one thing that maybe a little challenging.
100 days.
100 days, just 100 days. So let's say you want to drink more water. 100 days, a glass a day. Conscious effort to 1 a day. Whatever you did before, you'll still do, but 1 glass a day. So, I started that with my assistant. I want to drink, like 4 of these a day,
right.
32 ounces, whatever the case is. And so we got a mug and it's on my desk every time I walk in. And then I have some support from her saying, hey, remember to drink your water. So just do it. So the first, 2-3 weeks, I feel like I'm going to drown myself in so much water. But then it's like, okay, now I'm used to it. Now I'm drinking as much water as possible because the habit is there. And one of the rules that I love to follow is the habit is more important than the intensity at first. So don't worry about the intensity.
Right.
Develop the habit. So can you take 1 minute a day to focus on how you will achieve a goal? Just 1 minute a day. Can you take 1 minute a day to focus on your health? Yeah. Can you take 1 day to retrain your brain? Yeah. Can I take 1 day, or 1 action a day?
Right.
And you start off with something, and reduce it down to just a minute or 2 minutes or 1 behavior. If you can get that behavior to be a habit, it's easy to stack.
Right, of course.
It's just like the foundation of a building.
Sure.
Once you have the foundation, if you build it right, you stack.
Yeah.
And so every good discipline affects another, and every bad discipline affects others.
What do you think about when you have a bad day, or when you have a bad moment, where you react and you're not on your game, where you're calm in a frustrating moment, or someone on your team does something you don't want, or traffic, or whatever? How do you process that? Do you have bad days?
Yeah. I have not days. I have bad
moments,
events. There's when I want to separate like behaviors and emotions. So usually when people say they're having a bad day, sure, certain things may have gone wrong or something that they tried to do, didn't work out. all information and experiences are processed at the non-conscious brain first, and then it gives rise to something we call a feeling. So emotions are processed non-consciously. The electrical and chemical reaction to that is called a feeling. So when I'm not feeling the way that I want to feel, I don't focus on the feeling. I focus on the cause, the neuroelectrical charge that's occurred in my brain. And in most cases, it's something that you're doing to interpret an event that's causing the neuroelectrical signal, causing the feeling. So in meditation, for example, why do you meditate? Well, obviously, it's great for a whole host of health reasons, whether it's less stress, less lower blood pressure, less cortisol release, etc. But the one thing meditation does more than anything else is it gives you the ability to have a pause of awareness so that you sense what's happening at the non-conscious level.
Right.
And what's happening outside of you. So when somebody behaves a certain way, it's processed at the non-conscious level, gives rise to your conscious mind for you to respond. And so when something happens, I like to be able to check in so that I don't react and I have the ability to respond. And if you do that enough through mindfulness, being aware, just being aware of exactly what's going on, then you have fewer and fewer of those times. So, something happened last week. I was in a hotel room and I spilled some water on a shirt that I needed for a wedding that we were going to. And my wife was, she was going off deep and I was just calm.
Yeah.
And she goes, aren't you worried about this? I said, will it help?
Right.
Like, no, let's just figure out what to do. The accident already happened.
Mm-hmm. Why are we so wired to react in situations as opposed to be calm and say, well, this reaction is not going to serve a solution?
Well, we have a misunderstanding of flow of information and the way information is processed. And so the reaction happens, again, at the reptilian non-conscious level. So every external stimuli, if you get into some of the brain, which again is my passion, is one of my friends, Dr. Evian Gordon, came up with a great model. He says, the number one thing to understand about the brain is safety and comfort first, right? So in the environment that you're in, whether you like it or you don't, is irrelevant. Your brain finds that comfortable because it's the homeostasis. But safety first. So any loud noise, any type of real or imagined present or future pain based on the interpretation at the non-conscious level gives rise to automatic feelings. So the signal is sent from the reptilian or lizard brain to the emotional brain, and it's only later logically understood if we take the time
to be aware of it.
Be aware of it.
That's why people react so much in traffic instantly.
That's right.
Instant reactions.
Yeah, but here's something you could do quickly. It's called a reframe. So let's say you're driving in traffic, and let's say somebody cuts you off, and you've been sitting at the same spot for 20 minutes like I did this morning, and somebody you're maybe looking down at your cell phone because you have some time because you're parked on the highway, right? And somebody cuts you off, so you could automatically react, go, I can't believe he just did that, and just use all of this energy, the cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline that's flowing through your body and causing stress in your body. Or you can say, well, what if that person just found out their dog died and they're really trying to get home quickly? You go, okay, I guess it's okay if she or he cut in front of me.
Right.
Or they just got a call from their mother fell.
Yeah.
Would you change the way you felt about it? And the answer is, yeah, probably. And the reason, because you changed the frame. So you can learn how to create frames for yourself of how you see the world, how you see failure, how you see effort, how you see your habits, how you create frames in advance that actually serve you through awareness and response versus reactivity. Yeah. And that is what a lot of people who, for example, I'm going to go back to professional athlete. What do you learn how to do? Respond in a variety of different ways in advance or through practice, so that when it's game time, you're just unconsciously doing what you do.
Yeah, especially like, I used to react a lot whenever I felt like anyone was attacking me physically or verbally in the game. I used to react and want to beat people up and hit people and respond. If I got hit in a weird way, I would always want to have the last say, right? The last hit. And my coaches would always train me because I would always get flagged. The second person is the one who gets flagged, not the first person who does the foul.
Yeah.
And so I started to train myself and visualize, okay, this is going to happen in this game. Like someone's going to punch me in the nuts. Someone's going to bite me. Someone's going to do this. And I can either be calm and focus on the next play, or I can respond and have a penalty for our team.
Right.
And I started to train my mind, seeing it in the future as it already is happening. And that really supported me in not reacting.
And that's actually one of the best ways. It's a cognitive behavior therapy process where you practice in advance anything good or anything challenging. And what's really amazing, some of the latest research on goal achieving, is the ability, in the past, I used to teach and also do visualize my goals. Whether it was my body, health, relationships, money, charity, whatever. I used to visualize the outcome.
For those of you who have started a business or are thinking about starting a business, listen up. If you don't feel like logo design or branding is your strong suit, BrandCrowd is here to solve your problem quickly. And I love BrandCrowd. It's a logo maker tool that can help you make an incredible logo design in just a few clicks. BrandCrowd takes your business name and industry and generates thousands of custom logos for you in just a matter of seconds. It's super cool. Once BrandCrowd generates a logo you like, you can edit fonts, colors, and the layout until it is perfect for you and your business. But BrandCrowd is more than just a logo maker. They also help create, market, and manage your business's branding. BrandCrowd also allows you to create social media designs for posts, stories, and ads for Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else you're looking to serve your customers. The best thing is, BrandCrowd's templates will perfectly wrap around your logo and incorporate its color scheme, saving you time and making your designs on brand. And this is something that I wish I had years ago when I started my business. It would have made things so much easier and less time consuming for me. To get started today, all you have to do is visit brandcrowd.com/Lewis and enter the name of your business. And then BrandCrowd will get creating. Then you can browse the logos and edit as many as you like for free.
And some of the latest research now shows, in addition to visualizing the outcome, visualize the obstacles. And in the past, when we talked about this law of attraction, no, don't visualize the obstacles, you attract them to it. No, your brain's way smarter than that. So if you have, whether it's a belief that's in your way, a story that's holding you back, a circumstance, references, something that's holding you back from achieving X. So take a look at whatever it is that you already know is holding you back. I don't believe I'm worthy. I don't believe I'm smart enough. I don't believe I'm good enough. I don't believe I'm skilled enough. I'm too young, too old. I'm too this or too that, or not enough of this, not enough of that. So address that and say, okay, here's an obstacle. I'm going to visualize that obstacle being real. And I'm going to visualize just moving it aside and me moving towards my goal. The very act of acknowledging that releases the neural tension around it. If you do that over and over and over again, what your brain starts to see is, yes, there was a struggle. And so it's worthy of me creating this neural pattern around this new effort. Because most of what we're doing is, we're on autopilot. We're just eking through the day, on autopilot. And so the brain loves anything that makes it curious. The brain likes anything novel. The brain likes a challenge. So earlier you were asking me about, one of the brain training companies other than ours. I said, does it work? I said, yeah, it's a workout for your brain. And if you can strengthen the neural patterns of you seeing yourself with an obstacle and overcoming it, what do you think that does to your self-confidence and certainty?
Builds it up big time.
Builds it up. So if you actually do the work and develop those patterns in your brain, as you're doing the stuff you need to do in the physical world, you just strengthen those neural patterns, and that's what becomes your habits.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes really fun, because you can develop the habits and the skills that you need that you'll actually take action on versus having knowledge and skills in your head.
Now, I feel like you've been testing things for decades now with all the research and the work you've done.
Yeah.
So what does your morning routine look like now?
Oh, great.
What's
So today was a little bit different, except for one thing, because I drove from San Diego to LA to be with you. But I wake up, I pee, I do my meditation, 20 to 30 minutes, every morning. I don't care where I am in the world. At
And what
least
do you
one a
focus
day.
on during that time?
I do a variety of different meditations. So there's meditations that I can do where I'm just observing my thoughts. Now, a lot of people think, well, I thought you're not supposed to have thoughts when you meditate. Says whom? There's hundreds of different ways to practice awareness. See, meditation is the art of awareness. Awareness internally, awareness externally, but also the various millions of layers that exist in the physical and the non-physical world. So this morning, I did a meditation with some ocean sounds. And so it was about 5 o'clock. I woke up this morning, sat in my little sofa, with my feet propped up, and did a 20-so-minute meditation in the dark with the ocean, just listening to the ocean, just paying attention and going into a trance-like state where after 2 or 3 minutes, I disappeared. Like my body was part of air and space. So today I was using sound to get into that trance-like state. Other days I'll do a mantra, whether it's, a lot of people know transcendental meditation. So it's the Om mantra. So you just take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, it's Om. And the question is, why would you do that? And the answer is anytime you can give your brain a rhythm, it will entrain to that rhythm. That's one. Anytime you could pay attention to your breath, inhale and exhale, you turn off the parasympathetic nervous system. You turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and relaxation and your calm state of flow, versus your sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response system of adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, etc. So when you get the serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine going, and you're in that state of calmness, you're able to enter deeper levels of consciousness and awareness. So you're able to observe a thought. You're able to hear your heartbeat. You're able to sense different things that are being risen in your body through thoughts that you're having. So you can actually start to see, when I have this thought, here's the sensation in my body. And you start to get so attuned to what's happening, what stimuli is happening within you that's producing these sensations that cause you to either take action or not, retreat or move forward. You can start to get a feel for how the mechanics work. So I'll do that. Sometimes I'll put on some of the Tibetan monks and chant with them. So I use sound, no sound. I use breathing. I use open eye, closed eye, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. So I practice the art of being in control of my breath, not breathing, just being one with the entire universe and feeling this other than normal state of consciousness that we're used to. And it's not sleep, and it's not, conscious awareness. You're in an altered state of awareness, and you can enter deeper and deeper and deeper layers of energy, which everything is made up anyway. Everything's connected. We have this, obviously, our physical body, but the space between you and I right now, there's just vibrating packets of energy, right? And so you're able to access different layers of all of the intelligence and information that already exists in the universe versus the memories that we have in our brains. And that's magical.
I love this. Why are you so wired this way? What makes you so obsessed with this information and sharing it with 1 billion people?
When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I moved from Israel to Montreal. I spoke Hebrew, but not English or French. And for 2.5 years, I felt dumb. I felt like I wasn't smart enough and I wasn't good enough, and I was made fun of as a kid. That led to me being involved in street gangs from the age of 12 to 16.
Wow. In Montreal?
In Montreal.
Wow.
We trafficked drugs from Florida. We did break-in entries. We had a little street gang, about 12 of us that just got into a lot of trouble. My path was either jail or the morgue, one of the two. And there's a lot of successful people that have that kind of a story for some strange reason. And at 19, I met a mentor. His name was Alan Brown. He was a real estate developer.
Still in Montreal?
No, this was I moved from Montreal after years of turbulence. I finally broke free and moved from Montreal to Toronto, which is about 350 miles.
Gotcha. In Canada still.
Canada, yeah. And May 1980, I took my real estate course. June 20th, 1980, I became licensed as a real estate agent. And the reason I did is I met a man the weekend before that my brother introduced me to, who was interpersonal development.
Yeah.
And he was into, Zig Ziglar and Dennis Waitley and Brian Tracy's, 35 years ago. And he introduced me to this world of the mind, introducing me to the world of changing my beliefs, changing my habits, changing my perceptions of first, who are you? And he really helped me see that, the spiritual greatness within everybody, the intelligence that's within everybody. He had me start with getting in touch with that. And it was very philosophical and didn't have the evidence that we have today on affirmations, visualization, meditation, mindfulness, subliminal programming, habit creation, all of the different methodologies that we've all heard about, whether it was the astronauts that went to the moon initially that trained their brains, or the musicians that have, or the athletes that do. The science now is just so phenomenal on what is actually happening. And so as I was building my own companies, I built my companies by training my employees not on the skills that they needed, but on how spectacular they were as human beings. And the greatness was within them. And if they trained their brain to have the belief, that is, they may not have the skill or the know-how, but if you have the belief that I can, I will, I must.
You can build the habit.
You can build the habit. You can start to. If you think about this, I don't care if we asked any question on health, wealth, relationships, career, business, spirituality, we wanted to find the answer to something. We could Google it and within minutes have everything we want to know about it.
Tutorials, everything we need.
Tutorials, videos, audios, how to, step-by-step, blueprint, color coordinated, whatever you want. So our problem isn't how to. All the how to exists. How to build a business exists. How to be a great lover exists. It all exists.
How to get in shape. Yes.
Right. So I wanted to focus on, how do I help more people take more of the action they know they should be and want to? And it all started in 1995 when 1992. After I, got into real estate and I traveled the world, I ended up buying the franchising rights for Remax for the state of Indiana. And I was 26 years old.
Wow.
And I bought the franchising rights for Indiana, moved to Indiana. Wow. And I remember being interviewed for the Indianapolis Business Journal. And the guy said, "What are your goals here in Indiana?" 26 years old. I was wearing, I remember a brown pinstripe suit. And I had glasses on, even though I didn't need glasses. I just wanted to look older. And I said, we'll do $1 billion in sales in Indiana. And the gentleman said to me, says, "Are you certain of that?" I said, "Well, that's my goal." He says, "Well, the two largest companies that have been here for 100 years don't do $100 million, $1 billion combined." And my cocky young self, I said, "Well, we'll be the first." He's like, "What?" 3 weeks later, the Indianapolis Business Journal, and I have it at home. It says, "Sets $1 billion goal."
Wow.
May 1992, we hit $1 billion in sales 5 years later.
Wow.
And we were stuck, which is a great place to be stuck. But it wasn't because we didn't try hard. We were stuck because people started hitting the upper limits of their financial blueprint, the upper limits of their beliefs, the upper limits of their habitual ways of doing things. So regardless of how much more information we gave them, they just were at their limits.
Believe they can make more.
That's right. Well, and again, when we talk about beliefs, there's two types of beliefs. There's belief that I say to you, "Sure, I could do that. Oh, yeah, man, I want to do that." But if there's an opposing belief at the implicit part of the brain saying, "But you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're afraid of failure, afraid of this, you're afraid of that," you won't do it because the non-conscious controls the entire game. And so we started to retrain our agents' brains after we did an event. 75 agents paid, I think it was $2,000 or $3,000 to go through a 6-month brain retraining program. Those 75 agents increased our sales by $100 million.
Wow.
And we said, okay, we're going to teach this to the entire company.
Yeah.
So we went from $1.2 billion to $4.5 billion in sales a year in 3 years by working on this versus what they needed to do. And so I became really pretty well versed in understanding a little bit about the brain. And then after I was retired in 2003, after building a couple of companies, I took Bamboo.com, we took public in 1999. And I wanted to just teach what I'd learned. And I started getting involved with some of the top neuroscientists, neuropsychologists in the world, quantum physicists, molecular biologists. I want to just understand the mechanics of how it all worked. So when I visualize in first person what's happening in my brain and where. When I visualize in third person what's happening in my brain and where. When I repeat an affirmation that I don't believe and I hear a little voice in my head saying, bullshit, why does that happen? That's not true. And then what are the systems that get activated as soon as you believe it's not true? And then can we learn to override them? The answer is yeah, it's an organ. And we're just getting the user's manual now for better than ever before.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated with biology. I'm fascinated with neurochemistry. I'm fascinated with the mechanics of if this circuit goes on, what does it do to this circuit? So if the fear circuit goes on, does that basically shut down the motivational circuit? Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Sure.
So when the spiritual circuit lights on, you believe, let's say God's on your side, if you happen to believe that, then guess what? You've just created a majority in your brain and it'll override just about any other circuit in the brain, right? And so there's the mechanics of it that I'm fascinated with, but then I'm also fascinated with, technology and the movie The Matrix.
It's amazing. Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, the movie The Matrix was the beginning of okay, so we can, and we already know that we actually can transfer information from one cell to another. So we already know that. And so now it's a matter of how, right? Not Lewis Howes, but how. And so I'm fascinated with, where are we with augmented reality? Where are we with virtual reality? Where are we with nootropics? Where are we with whether it's electrostimulation into the brain? Where are we with accelerated visualization, accelerated emotional immersions into a virtual reality or mixed reality? And you see, I can notice already my voice is just getting, because that's where it's all going.
Yeah.
Right. So in the next 5 years for sure, to 10 years, no question about it, you'll be able to visualize an experience in your brain 1,000 times in a minute or 10,000 times in a minute.
How?
Yeah. Well, because your non-conscious brain is picking up information at the rate of 400 billion bits of information per second. You're only aware of 4 to 40 bits of information per second consciously. Right. So all of the information is being pummeled into the non-conscious mind anyway, and then deletes, distorts, or sends a signal up for you to be aware of. Well, if you can get the information in the brain and you could trigger the brain plasticity switch on, which is mostly off after 10 years old, then the non-conscious brain is going to do what it did as a baby. That's why baby sleeps 20 plus hours a day. It's creating so many neural networks for what they hear, see, smell, taste, touch, experience, that it starts to formulate their map of reality. Well, we're about to go through a massive, massive shift in what happens in our brains over the next 20 years. Wow. And that's because of the ability to input information. A lot of people are stressed right now. Why? Text, phone, mobile, radio, TV, Facebook, Twitter, all this. It's just non-stop stress in the brain. And when the brain feels stressed, then obviously cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine kick in, and that's a stress hormone. Well, it's like having, your finger on the electricity button all day long and just not stopping. So you start to burn the fibers, your nerves. And so there's a major shift that's going to happen, especially with virtual reality. Just remember, the combination of virtual reality and augmented reality. I've been in some scenarios recently where it's unbelievable. I was in Israel just a few months ago, and I was in a lab in Israel with some virtual reality goggles on, some sensors on my body, and they basically put my consciousness into a baby, so that when I looked everywhere, I had my arms were baby's arms, my legs were baby's arms, but I was me. And so my body basically disappeared. I took on the feeling of being in a baby's body.
Wow.
And I know on one part of my brain's going, this is not happening. And the other part of the brain's going, yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And we'll be able to put ourselves into these immersive experiences directly focused on the non-conscious brain to rewire it. So somebody's afraid of public speaking, afraid of heights, afraid of failure, afraid of success. The games that are going to be coming out, the experiences that will be coming out, where you'll be able to have your virtual reality, just glasses on. They're not going to be as, as big and clunky as they are now. That's like the telephones, cell phones from 1970. They were big and clunky and weighed 5 pounds. Now you have a computer in your hand that's got more power than the computer we used to put a man on the moon.
Right.
And so the evolution of where that's going is any experience, any time, real feeling associated with it that ties into all the biometrics of your body, your heartbeat, your sweat glands, your blood pressure. Everything will be monitored to be able to create maximal upload into your brain for you to absorb it. So you want some confidence? You'll be able to go into a confidence chamber in your mind and build some freaking confidence, because confidence is nothing more than a series of neural patterns that have been reinforced. If it's nothing more than a neural pattern that's been reinforced, why not figure out how to accelerate the neural pattern creation in optimal conditions?
Yeah. Are you going to develop this?
Oh, that's what NeuroGym is all about. Yeah, we're building the gym. We're going to have the best programs like that in the NeuroGym.
Yeah.
That's the whole vision. So if somebody has a fear of failure, great. Let's create some simulations that they could play in their,
Amazing.
living room, and let's see if they want to invite 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 friends around the world. So that's where it's all going. And so if you can get the information into the brain, then the brain can code it. And if it codes it at the implicit level, then it will change behavior and perception.
Amazing.
I'm going to be talking about a lot of different ways that you can implement this if it actually works in every area of your life, habits you can put into your life as well throughout this entire video. But the law of attraction has been a huge part of my success and growth in multiple areas of my personal life. And I want to dive into what the law of attraction means and break down the different ways that you can use it to manifest your dreams and achieve anything you want in your life. But the biggest message I want to get across when it comes to the law of attraction is that it requires effort. It requires some type of action. That's why in the word attraction, you see action in the word. You don't just get to write down something on a piece of paper or have a vision board or map something out or cut out photos and look at it in front of you every single day, or write down things on a piece of paper and think hard about it for a few minutes and then expect everything in your life to change and to be this magnet of opportunities, to have everyone that you want in your life attracted to you, money, good health, opportunities with your career. It's not going to happen overnight like that. And I wish it did, but it's not that easy. So there are some beliefs and actions that we need to take place in order for it to work, and that's what we're going to do by diving into today. So the first thing you want to think about is switching from negativity to positivity. So many people get caught up in focusing on what they don't want to happen in their future. And I want to talk about this a little bit towards the end of this video on how to focus on some of the negative things that could happen, but really focusing on the positive for the main part of your life. We'll talk about that towards the end because this is an important distinction. But they start living almost in constant fear of what could go wrong and what won't work out. And when we come from this place of, well, I don't know if I put myself out there, it's not going to work out, and then I'm going to get made fun of, and then I'm going to be embarrassed, and then I'm going to be stressed, and no one's going to love me. And then we go in this rabbit hole and this kind of cycle of fear and anxiety, and that is not how you attract good things in your life. You can't start from your way of being of negativity and fear and expect to attract beautiful things in your life. So we need to eliminate the negative self-talk, and an environment that's easy to get stuck in sometimes can be the negative self-talk. And there's so much negativity in the world, and if you don't actively work to shift your focus, to shift your thoughts in your mind, that negativity will consume you. And that's where the law of attraction comes in. Now, for me, it's about focusing less on what I don't want to happen in the future and actually focus on what I do want. And again, I think a lot of people focus on what they don't want too much. And you start to attract the things you're thinking about. I don't want this. I don't want that. Those things start to come to you. You start to see them. It's like the old example of someone says, don't think of a pink elephant. You start to see it and you start to imagine it. If you say, well, I don't want to be poor, you start to feel it and you start to imagine it and you start to have anxiety around it. So you want to really think about the positive things in your life. You want to think about, what do I want to attract? Who do I want to become? What do I want to overcome? So for example, if you're becoming a negative person, you're more likely to attract more negative people rather than positive ones, because positive people won't want to be around you. Negativity keeps company, and so does positivity. When you start to see other positive people that are like you, you say, I want to hang out with those people. Those people are going to continue to lift me up. I can lift them up. It's a good cycle. But the negative stuff you start to attract When you talk about gossip and you talk about bad news and you talk about comparison and judgment and anxiety and stress, that feeds in a community of other people that speak in the same language. So you want to shift your language and start thinking more positively. And if you feel like you aren't deserving of a loving relationship, a loving partner, you're most likely going to attract the wrong type of people in your life. And if you're focusing on how much money you don't have in your life right now or how your business could fail, you're not going to be able to focus your energy on the right clients or the products that will take your business to the next level or the skills you need to develop to help you grow. Now, your thoughts dictate your actions and where your energy goes. So you want to be thinking about, what can I do to replace these negative thoughts, the anxiousness or the fear? How can I replace it so my energy can go in a more positive direction? And again, where you put your energy into is what you attract. So if you're thinking negative thoughts all day long, you're probably going to attract that. If you're thinking gratitude and positive thoughts, you'll start to see that show up differently. So how can we put the law of attraction into practice? Now let's go back to our examples and apply a new way of thinking. If you're caught in thinking negatively about the world and about yourself, this is so important. What would change inside of you if you looked around and you wrote down 5 things that you're grateful for about the world? Now, this, for me, is part of the secret to the law of attraction. It's the foundation is gratitude. It's your way of being must be grateful in order to attract new things. There's so many things in my life that I should not have attracted because I didn't have the skills, because I didn't have the tools, because I didn't have the education, because I didn't have the money, because I didn't have the resources. So many things that I shouldn't have attracted, but because I had the foundation of gratitude, passion, joy, curiosity, those things started to come to me, and they can come to you as well if you come from that place of gratitude as your foundation. So you want to think about, what are these things that are important to me in my life? You know, it can be simple things. It could be like this cup of coffee that I have right now. It can be that I have a roof over my head, that I've got quality friends, that I'm healthy, you know, that I'm walking in nature today. It doesn't have to be some grandiose thing that's happened to you to be grateful for. I'm so grateful for these little present moments with people that I care about, to spend an hour on the beach, to go for a walk with a friend, to have a good conversation with someone and talk about something that I'm going through. For me, that's just as meaningful. The moments in between the big moments are just as meaningful. So write down these things or think about these things. This is something I embed in my daily life. When I wake up, I think about what I'm grateful for. When I go to sleep, I think about and reflect on the things I'm grateful for from that day. And it's just my way of being for as much as I can. Now, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and there's some times I'm negative, but it's something that I try to really focus on as much as possible. So instead of saying that you're not enough, that you don't deserve success, what if you looked in the mirror on a daily basis? I dare you to look in the mirror on a daily basis and say, I am enough, and I do deserve the results that I want to create in my life because I show up, because I'm consistent, because I work hard, because I care about my work. If you looked in the mirror and you did this consistently for 30 days and you actually used the word action in attraction and you put it into practice on a daily basis towards that growth, I'd be amazed to see what you attract and what you manifest in your life. Or if you felt like you weren't deserving of a loving partner and just kept focusing on the wrong people, what if you said, you know what? I am deserving of a loving partner because I care deeply about those around me and I'm worthy of feeling deeply cared about myself. And what if you started to change your thoughts and behaviors around yourself and say, I'm not going to keep doing the things that I've always done. I'm going to start showing up differently and love myself and not needing someone else to love me who maybe isn't in the right mindset. And start distancing yourself from those typical patterns that you've had in the past and love yourself first and see what you attract from that loving, grateful place with yourself. Or if you are in a tough financial spot, maybe you're struggling financially and you've been trying to start a business or a side hustle. I've been there. I know what this feels like. It's not fun. For a long time, I was living on my sister's couch and I didn't have much money. It was really stressful. I remember this feeling of being stuck, feeling like I was never going to make any money. And when I was focusing on that feeling of I'm never going to make this money, I feel stuck, I feel trapped, when's this going to happen, feeling this anxiousness, this stress around it, it was really impossible for me to think of creative ideas. It was impossible for me to take action because I was living in the stress as opposed to the gratitude for what I was having in that moment. I should have been focusing on, you know what, my sister is allowing me to stay here for free, so I have some time to learn a new skill. I made $100 this day. I should be grateful for that. Not focusing on what I'm lacking or what I don't have, but what I am creating on a daily basis. And I started to ask different questions around this time, like, how can I be of service to other people? How can I add as much value to someone else? Or what are my top skill sets that I can use to my advantage that no one else has? Like, what do I have? I started writing a list of all these different skills that I had. Even when I didn't think I had many skills, I still wrote down a list of the qualities I have, of the skills from the past that maybe I could apply to right now. And when I began asking those types of questions, I started attracting the people who needed my skill sets and services. And I finally started to make more money than ever before because I was thinking about serving others. I was thinking from a positive, grateful standpoint about helping others and starting a side hustle which turned into a business, instead of thinking negatively about not having any money, or I'm sleeping on my sister's couch and why is it taking me so long to create this and I'll never make anything from this situation. I started focusing on how can I add value, as much value as possible, to this one person in front of me right now. How can I serve them? How can I create for them? How can I connect someone to them that could help them? What can I do to add value and help someone else achieve their goals? Because I think, as Zig Ziglar said, if you want to accomplish all of your goals, help other people accomplish their goals. And that's what I started focusing on. Not what I'm lacking, but how can I give and how can I add value to other people? When you focus outward on service, you start to really attract some incredible things in your life. It's unbelievable, the ripple effect, the domino effect, one person helping another person, how it comes back around to you. And if you've ever felt this for yourself, leave a comment below of this feeling you've had when you started adding more and more value, getting out of the negative situation inside your mind and in your body, and focusing outward on helping others. It's incredible the things you can start to attract and manifest in your life. So we want to talk about practice for reflecting on your life. And I want you to look at your relationships, your health, your business, and the key areas of your life that are meaningful to you. And ask yourself these questions. Who are you spending too much energy on? Think about this right now. Who are you spending too much energy on in your life? Literally, you can write this down, or you can just think, like, who are the 3 to 4 people in my life that I'm spending too much time on that maybe I don't need to be spending this time on these individuals? What aspects of your health are hurting you because your energy is spent on things that don't support you, that don't give you more energy? For your business, what tasks or projects are taking up so much time that are stressing you out without much reward? Whether personal joy, whether it be actual financial reward, or moving a project forward. What are those tasks that you're in control freak mindset, doing too much of it, spending hours on something that you don't need to be doing? Start assessing these different areas of your life and think about, what can I really let go of in this place to start attracting more? You know, energy is everything when you're thinking about a law of attraction. And you need to be coming from a positive, grateful, abundant feeling in order to start creating more of that. You can't come from a feeling of lack, of scarcity, of not enough, of I don't love myself. If you don't love yourself, you're saying to the world, to the universe, to other people, why would I work with you? Why do I want to connect with you? Why do I want to be in love with you if you don't love yourself? So you've got to start shifting that way of thinking, the way of feeling, the way of being, in order to really show up energetically around other people. One of my early mentors told me, the world makes room for passionate people. Think about it. If you are slunched over every single day like this, lacking confidence, stressed, anxious, depressed, and you're unable to get out of your own way because you're constantly thinking about how much you don't love yourself. I've been there. I know this feeling. If you're in that state, people aren't attracted to that. They're attracted to someone who is humble yet confident at the same time in their abilities. Someone who cares and can look other people in the eye. Someone who's got a big heart and opens up and is willing to receive information. Not someone who's slouched over and has, a middle finger up to the world. They want people who are open, who are willing, who are down to try things, who are passionate, at least passionate about the thing they care about. And when you show you are passionate about something, People are attracted to energy that is passionate, that is grateful, that is fun, that is loving, that is expressive, that is creative, that is expansive. They're not attracted to people who are closed off and guarded. That is not attractive. That is not sexy in any part of life. In a relationship, health, business, you're not going to attract people from that place. So we're working to reprogram your mind and break the patterns that have been leading your life, because I've been there in so many different areas of my life for many different years that have held me back. And some I've been confident in certain areas, and others I've lacked confidence. And this is a process, and this is a journey, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we want to identify where your energy is going and focus on where is that energy and effort leading you and helping you. And as the author of The Secret, Rhonda Byrne told me in our interview last year, she said, when you start noticing a damaging pattern, you can replace it with a new one. But you need to identify what the patterns are. I think sometimes we just aren't even aware. It's just a pattern that's running. It's something that's happening. And maybe it's been happening for months or years or decades. We're not even aware. It's just become our identity. So when you identify the negative identity patterns that are holding you back, that's the first step. And you can start to really shift and replace it with a new identity, a new pattern that you can implement. And you want to think about the people in your life. Now, are the people you spend your time with giving you energy, or are they draining you of your energy? And this is also, a side note, just because someone maybe doesn't agree with you or has different beliefs or makes you feel reactive doesn't mean that they're always this toxic person. You get to figure out how you can respond to people, because not everyone's going to be a perfect human being around you all day long. You've got to learn how to respond and let go of the triggers that have been holding you back. It's usually never about the other person. It's always about, why is this hurting me? Why is this affecting me? Yes, if someone's being nasty towards you and saying mean things to you and deliberately and intentionally trying to hurt you, that is not okay. But sometimes it's just a misinterpretation. Sometimes it's a miscommunication, and we get so triggered. I know, because this used to be me. We get so triggered and so angry. We hold on to this. That doesn't help you. It's typically never about the other person. It's usually always about the thing we need to let go of and heal in our past so that we can be less reactive to life's daily interactions. So you want to think about, who are those people that maybe they are draining you, or maybe you need to figure out how to let go of your reactions. And if you're wanting to manifest loving relationships around you, you want to start thinking about, who are the people that are really supporting me and those that aren't. And are you keeping people around because you don't want them to leave your side, or are you keeping them around because they're actually adding value and you're contributing to adding value in their life as well? And if you were trying to put out in the world that you do want loving relationships around you, then bring the joy that you want to create. And if the people currently around you don't fall into that desire, then it's time to let them go, or just distance yourself. You don't have to say, I'm cutting you out of my life forever, but start to distance yourself to create time and space for more abundance of love in your life. And for your health, think about your health. How many of us feel like we are at a 10 and a 10 in our health, that we are optimal living with our bodies, our mental and emotional health. And the beliefs we hold about our bodies and health really can affect us. How we think about it can make us either sick or healthier. This is something that I've seen for myself, and I've seen so many people around the world. The fear of sickness and disease sometimes manifests in the body faster than actually getting something physically in the body that would manifest. And I've spoken to many different health experts, scientists, spiritual leaders on the podcast who share how much impact the mind has over the body. And we live in a world where it's easy to get caught up in the negative thinking about our body, shaming our body. My body's not enough. I've got too much fat here. I'm not big enough here. I'm too skinny. Whatever it is, the shame, the judgment, the comparison, that will consume you and it'll hold you back from attracting what you want. For example, you don't want people to see you in a swimsuit because you're not happy with your body. And that can make you self-conscious. It can make you feel depressed, which makes it harder to take action in the effort of attraction. So if we're constantly crippled by this fear or judgment or insecurity or shame, we're not going to take the action to help us attract and become a magnet for what we want in our life, the magnet of abundance, of love, of wealth, of health, of good friends, of opportunities, of creation. We're not going to be the magnet. So what if you focused on your desire to want to work out more, to eat better, to love yourself for where you are in your journey? What if you focused on that instead? And if you only focused on those pillars and not what others might think about you or how you look compared to someone else, what if you did that and focused on the day-to-day moments and the journey as opposed to where you are compared to someone else? Then all of that is outside of you. And when you're putting your energy into thinking about insecurities or lack or stress or comparison, and the opinions of others and the embarrassment of someone's going to laugh at me because I don't look as good, it doesn't allow you to put energy into bettering yourself. Now, this is not easy if we've never learned how to do this. This is not something that comes natural to most people if you've never learned how to do this. This is a practice. This is something that you're going to want to form a new habit and try and consistently show up for every day, if possible, to support you in the different areas of your life that you want to attract more abundance in. And with your business, how much energy are you putting into the fears of running out of money, scarcity, of not having enough, of having a product that nobody will want, and comparing yourself to the other competitors and constantly competing in comparison as opposed to serving? How can I just serve the clients that I have? How can I add more value to them and let the results speak for themselves? And how can I constantly show up and be better as a leader and develop new skills so that I can attract new clients, so I can effectively have more confidence when I'm reaching out to prospects, so I can create more consistent content on social media, whatever it is you're trying to do. But if all of your energy is spent on the opposite, the stress of not having enough, of trying to sell and going broke and going out of business, it's keeping you from attracting more customers. It's keeping you from innovating your product and focusing on how you're able to serve more people and serve the world. So again, it all stems from this way of being. My way of being gets to be abundance. If I want to manifest the law of attraction in my life, it gets to be gratitude, joy, passion. It gets to be self-love, because you attract more from those places. But if you're coming from a place of negativity, of resentment, of anger, of fear, of stress, of I'm not good enough, why would people want to come to something or someone that doesn't feel good enough? Why would something great be attracted to something that says, I don't love myself? You got to think about this. When you can come from a place of, I love myself, I love the journey I'm on. Maybe I'm not where I want to be, but I love where I'm at right now, and every day I'm working towards the improvement of myself. I did this step that I said I was going to do. I was consistent when I said I was going to show up 5 days a week with my health or these action steps. It's you following through on your commitments to yourself, which will attract more goodness in your life. It's when you're constantly breaking your word, is when you doubt your own self, because you're not being in integrity with yourself. So here's the tricky part that will take time to work through, yet it's so important for your growth. Where we direct our energy and focus is often related to beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. Now, those beliefs can be traced back as early as our childhood, obviously from the different events that we go through in our childhood. And Rhonda Byrne's advice for this is start to listen to yourself and look at the things that you have really strong opinions about. Where you have a really strong opinion is a belief that's underneath that. You can dissolve those beliefs and feel free. Every time you are able to drop the phrase, I believe, from something, you feel completely free. It's amazing to feel light as a feather and actually feel invincible. Doubt and uncertainty play a big part in most people's lives, and those two things can be paralyzing. So just imagine living life with zero uncertainty. And when we understand and work through our beliefs that don't serve us anymore, and we can start to change our thinking to, well, what do I want for my life? That's when we can begin taking actions to help us achieve it. And that's what this is all about. So I want to share a few ways that I've used the law of attraction in my life. And I want to talk about some of the habits we're going to go into here in just a moment as well. But for me, I've used the law of attraction to really manifest different accomplishments and new experiences in just about every area of my life. And health has always been important to me, but that doesn't mean it's always been easy. And I use strategies, I use structure, and I use accountability to help me be consistent with my health. Because it's one thing to just think, you know what, I want to have a healthy body, I want to be stronger, I want to be faster, I want to be more athletic, I want to accomplish my athletic goals. It's one thing to say that, to visualize it, which is something that I do, which is part of the law of attraction. But man, especially if you've got a busy life, if you've got responsibilities, if you've got kids, if you've got work, there's only so much time to really attract the things you want and take action on those things on a daily basis. So I'm a big believer in creating structure in your life, in scheduling the most important things for you on a daily basis, on creating goals for yourself, and having a coach, an accountability buddy, someone you hire that shows up for you. So in my health, that's what I do. I've got, a boxing trainer to help me improve a skill there and also get a good workout. I've got a lifting trainer as well. I schedule it in. I make time. Sometimes I have to do it in the middle of the day, in between stuff in my business. Sometimes it's got to be early in the morning. Sometimes it's got to be at night. It's not always this most easy, ideal way of going about it. But when you want to create more in your life, when you're trying to be a bigger leader, there's going to be more pressures and responsibilities that show up with that effort. And so it's figuring out what is the most important things to do with my time. How do I schedule this in? How do I create accountability so I make sure I show up for my dreams and my goals so that when I look back 3, 6, 12 months of taking consistent action, things are manifesting and I'm attracting them because I'm showing up consistently. And success was always something that I dreamed of growing up, but in my early 20s, I struggled a lot from it because I wasn't really sure, after sports was done, I had to kind of refigure out, how do I apply this into life? How do I apply this into making money, into relationships? Because for me, it was all about sports and I had the structure, I had the accountability, I had the coaches, I had the team. After that, I didn't have that. So I had to transition. I had to let go of an old identity that I was holding on to, this identity of being an athlete, of trying to go pro. And once that was done, I had to shed the old identity and not hold on to it. Otherwise, I would be suffering. I would be depressed. I would be in negative thinking. I'd be thinking that I wasn't enough, that no one cared about me because they only cared about the old me. So I had to let that go, and so I could start attracting from a new space, a new identity. Another question that people like to ask me is, how did you use the law of attraction to start achieving success when starting out as well as in the current moment? So how did I achieve success starting out? And also now, how am I using it to accomplish what I want? Now, relationships are what matter most to me. A friend and mentor and coach of mine, Chris Lee, says that the key to success in life is relationships. And the key to successful relationships is vulnerability. And it's something that I truly believe in. If you want to get super connected to someone extremely fast, be vulnerable right away. And that'll open you up and that'll create that trust and relationship with that other person to be vulnerable as well. So relationships are what matter most. Health, business, life, it stems from relationships, from family, friends, finding the right partner. If the relationships are in constant breakdown, your life will be in constant breakdown. It'll be hard to manifest what you want and attract the things. And I believe this area is often overlooked and people don't realize that you can really create more control over the relationships you put the energy into. And it all starts from your intention. It all starts from the way you communicate. It starts with how you show up for yourself and the relationships with yourself. But the way I started to do it early on was kind of what I've been talking about already. I truly get so clear on my goals. I get very clear on what I want to attract, and I think about it. I write it down. I'll create a certificate of achievement. I'll hang it on my wall. I'll put it on my phone and say, this happened. I sign it. I put the date of when it's going to happen, and I really reverse engineer and say, what are the actions to attract this goal?
I want to follow up on this. Skill set. There's a lot of people who have all the degrees and credibility in the world, but don't have the self-belief.
Yes.
So what is more important? Skill set, actually being skilled at something, the ability to believe in yourself with the skill set and coupling the two, or the ability to package your skills to transfer for money in exchange, because a lot of people can't position or package and then sell. They might have the skill set, they might have the belief and confidence, but they don't know how to package it to transfer money. Which one of those threes
That's a
Those
good
three
question.
are more important.
I would say I used to believe it's the mindset, but now I would say I'm leaning more towards the skill set, and I'll explain why. Because let's say you're a digital marketer. I'm going to use it as an example. You're a digital marketer. You don't really believe in yourself, but let's say you know how to close, you know how to communicate your value, and you're good at what you do. Well, and someone comes to you and say, hey, Louis, you're so good at digital marketing. Let me give you $5,000 a month retainer to do my social. Well, that changes your belief system very quickly, right? So I almost like to use that as an environment. It's like I teach all my students. If you have not made $1 closing or you're not made $1 copywriting, whatever that you do, you make the first dollar. You make the first dollar.
That's the best feeling, that first dollar, man.
That first dollar, man. It's like podcast. Oh, you've never made $1, any money from podcast, just make the first dollar. That's the difference. What's the difference between professional and amateur? Professional gets paid. Make your first dollar. Now it changes. Okay, maybe I could do this. Maybe I'm pretty good. Maybe I could get better. Maybe I can do this full time. Maybe I can make a career out of this. It's easier to use the environment to shift our beliefs than try to change it just within ourselves. That's what I believe it. Like our environment is infinitely more powerful than our willpower. Way more powerful.
Our environment in what way?
If you don't want to be, if you want to get fit, hang around with people who are fit. Mm-hmm. You eat better. You will want to exercise. If you don't smoke, you hang around with all your friends are smokers, guarantee you will smoke. You don't do drugs, you hang around with people who do drugs, you do drugs. We can't help but influenced by the environment. So I say, why not put ourselves in an environment that is supportive of our goals? I'm very, very careful with that, very careful. Yeah, and I say the same thing.
This idea of entrepreneurship has been a sexy, word and idea, yes. Especially in the last 5 years with social media and everyone kind of flashing this lifestyle. Gary Vee, talking about it a lot and everything. Mm-hmm. But as you know, it's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to make a lot of money and sustain it. It's hard to get there, but then it's hard to sustain it for a while. When a pandemic hits or something else, people aren't prepared for that. Do you think it's possible for people who will have great skills, who are part of a great team, of a great company, that never want to start their own thing and be an entrepreneur, but are valued, are part of a team, are growing with a company, making an impact in this company and the mission that they have? Do you think it's possible for people that aren't entrepreneurs to become wealthy? And if so, what are the strategies they need to be applying right now in order to start having their money work for them as opposed to only working for money?
I love that question. I've never been asked that question, and I have a very good answer. One thing I learned from my mentor, he said, Dan, you don't get rich on income, you get rich on equity. You don't get rich on income. So if for someone with the skill sets, think about a ship, right? There's only one captain. We're going from here to there. So you look at Jack Ma, who started Alibaba. Yeah, Jack Ma is very successful. Well, but the initial founders, they didn't do too bad either, right? So you have the people who maybe you are the founding members, the founding team with a startup that is going places with the right visionary, with the right founder and CEO. Which, by the way, that's also, I think only certain people fit that profile. That's what I believe in. Okay, that's what I believe in. And I learned that through Culture Index, which is like a survey that people take to see what personality that fits. So only certain people are fit for their CEO profiles. But everybody else, they can still contribute. And if they have equity, they participate, they can still do very well financially. In fact, it's like if naturally they know they're not the CEO personalities and materials, if they just try to be that, it doesn't work anyway. It just doesn't work. But it doesn't mean they're not valued. Yeah. I mean, to me, I play a role in my company because I have a certain skill set, right? But I cannot do what I do better than like my team, they have certain skill sets that are way better than me. Like just this morning, we had a technical challenge. It's like my team could fix that. I don't know how to handle that. Like I just
we're trying to set up Zoom before this, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like I have no idea. No joke aside, I actually don't know how to turn on the camera.
There you go.
I literally do not how to turn. I don't know where the button is.
You know how to do the iPhone though, so that's easy.
That's easy. I can handle that, but like this, the XD stuff, I cannot handle. So what I'm saying is, you look at that if they participate in a vehicle in a good market that's growing, trending, and if they can be part of that founding members, they can get equity early on, they could do very well.
And what if they can't get equity or they're not early on and they join a team after 100 employees and it's...
They're not as good. So it gets the timing of it, right? The timing of it is you want it to be too early, higher risk, too late, then you don't get as much upside. And also depends on your skill set, right? What's the skill set you bring to the table? But they could do very well. It's called entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurship, yeah. And what are some things that people could do if they say, oh, that's not me, but I'm making a good salary and I'm going to be making more money? What could I be doing with my money so that it earns me more? What would you suggest?
Every one of us needs to be an investor. Doesn't matter how we make the money. I teach a concept called the wealth triangle, right? Which is kind of got 3 parts. The first part is what I call high income skills. And I define high income skills as skills that could make you more than $10,000 a month. Okay? $10,000 a month. Because I noticed something about human beings. Whenever we get past that 6-figure mark annually, something shifts. That I rarely see someone go past 6-figure and go back to $50,000 a year. It becomes a new comfort. It's a very
once you know how to get there, you could stay there.
It becomes it's a fascinating thing to see. So I think that $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, high income skills, and then the second part is what I call a scalable business. A scalable business, not just any business, but a business that is scalable, such as a software business, an influencer business, or e-com business. A scalable business. And then you have what I call high return investments. And I define high return investments as investments that would give you a 10% return year in and year out, 10% return or more. So you look at this wealth triangle. Now, here's the thing. If you have high income skills, you're already earning income. Your scalable business gives you profits, and your high return investment builds your net worth. Right? Wealthy people talk about net worth. They don't talk about income, right? They talk about net worth. So you look at this. Now, let me ask you this question, Lewis. If someone who is like, I'm making $30,000 a year, I want to get into some real estate stuff. You're like, do you have high income skills?
Put into it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have high income skills? No. Do you have a scalable business? No. I want to buy some properties with no money down. Kind of risky. Right? Because if you follow this, the first thing you got to focus on is increase your income, meaning develop skill sets that the marketplace would value. Do that first. Now, with a scalable business, you can start one, or you can also invest in one. It doesn't always mean you have to start one. So you can invest in one that throws off profits, and then you've got your high return investments. See, when we come to high return investments, it's about the preservation of the capital. It's not about getting the maximum return. We don't need it to get 50%. I just want 10%. Because I'm making money with these two things.
Right.
You just
don't want that sitting in a bank and not making anything.
That's right. So now the return of capital, of investment, not just on investment, now you're making more income, you're becoming more valuable. Hopefully your income increases every year. Your profit goes up. You take the extra cash, you put in high return investments, gives you more peace of mind. Then this is same wealth triangle goes $1 million, 10 million, 100 million, exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same.
If you're looking at a 21-year-old, 25-year-old who's about to get started in whatever, a job, an entrepreneurship endeavor, and you're looking at them and you have a 20-minute conversation with them. What would you say is the number one sign that they would be successful? What would they have to embody, talk about, not talk about, in order for you to be like, you know what, this person is, in the next 2-3 years, I want to watch them because it's going to be a trajectory, or at least they're going to be growing in some way. What would be that sign that someone would be successful?
Someone who has who has the obsession to learn. Because I remember many years ago, I was attending a 2-day workshop on digital marketing, right? At the time, it's funny, don't laugh at me, but it was a workshop, and the instructor was teaching how to do pop-up on a website. Like we're talking many, many years ago when it was a big thing, adding a pop-up, right? And I remember day one, he taught us, okay, if you want to get more opt-in subscribers, add a pop-up to your website, and this is how you do it. Okay, great. So it's a few hundred of us in the hotel room. So then I went back to the hotel room and I talked to my coding guy. I said, okay, let's add this piece of code. We'll capture more opt-in on the website. Great, right? And then we were getting more opt-ins, like just that evening. So day two, the instructor comes back and say, hey, so I taught you how to add opt-in and stuff. How many players have you done it? No one. I put on my hand, I said, I thought everybody did it, but no one did. And I was like, this is kind of fascinating, right? And then I said, yeah, it actually works. We added the power yesterday, we get more subscribers, it's awesome. And that's when I learned something about myself that I'm very eager to learn, I'm very eager to execute. Very eager to execute. And if I want to look at someone who's 21 years old, wherever they want to be, if they have that obsession to learn and execute. The action takers are money makers, right? That I would say you could see it in his or her eyes that they are action takers, not like making excuses. I don't know, I'm not ready, timing is not right, I'm not good enough, and no, they just execute.
Yeah. I think it's not about being afraid. It's about just being willing to take action, even when you don't know what you're doing. I think a lot of people, they don't know what they're doing, and it cripples them. And they say, oh, I've got to figure out what to do first. And then when I feel comfortable, then I can go do it. But I feel like when you're talking about it, it's like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I just need to make some money. Let me go figure this out and embarrass myself and make mistakes and make a couple bucks.
I say that you want to act as if all your dreams have come true and then you challenge your reality to catch up. It's much more powerful when you act as you're already there. Think about this. I'm going to ask you this. When you had the idea for the podcast, not the Lewis House today. I'm talking about in the beginning, right? Not the followers that like in the beginning. At the time, there's no credibility. You were just getting started. There's no name, right? It's like you try to get people on the show. Well, I don't know if I want to be, right? All that stuff. But now people are honored to be like, they would knock on your doors. Hey, Lewis, can I be on your show, right? But think about all these years. In the very beginning, at least from my observation, and correct me if this is wrong, I saw that you were already acting as, hey, you know what? I'm a brand. Right, my show is going to have tens of millions, hundreds of millions of downloads.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I started investing in my design and my brand to be like, what is the example that I would want to look at?
Yes.
If I would book this person, if I would go on their show, if Oprah would call me, or if Ellen would call me, what would I need to look like?
And Ellen did call you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, what would I need to look like to be a New York Times bestseller before I wrote a New York Times bestseller? Like, what would the branding need to be? What would the messaging need to be? What would the results need to be in order to get there? And I just started acting as with that vision in mind.
There you go.
And it kind of goes into this, segues into the law of attraction, which I'm curious your thoughts on the law of attraction when it comes to manifesting money, when it comes to manifesting your dreams, manifesting goals, the dream partner, whatever it may be for someone. In your opinion, how does the law of attraction work? And in what way does it work best for? Money, business, health, relationships? What do you feel?
I'm a very strong believer in law of attraction. I made a video on YouTube about this as well. But law of attraction is basically thoughts are things, right? Everything is energy. And you become what you think about. Essentially, that's what it means. But that's just one of the laws. You have law of gravity. You have laws of cause and effect. I think whatever we do, we need to learn and understand these other laws exist. Law of action. So it's not just law of attraction. It's like you're trying to do a math equation. You only know a plus. But there's minus, there's the equal sign, there's a lot of things that bracket. There are a lot of things you could use to make an equation work. But I only know a plus sign. So when it's like when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And people just utilize that and they don't look at everything else. So I believe in it. I believe in having the vision board, but also believe in having other things like where you think about even the law of realism. right? Even the law of cause and effect, all these things. So yes, I believe in it, but it's just it's like, think of it, it's like 1 or 2% of the equation.
Yeah.
But then just the rest of the equations.
How have you seen it work for your life or business, the law of attraction?
So, perfect example. Many years ago, I had a dream of getting my first, I was young, 20-somewhat years old, right? One of my dream car was at the
couple years ago.
Couple years ago. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope I stay young like that. But what was my dream car? I was driving the Mazda 3 at the time, the hatchback. My dream was to get a Mazda RX-8, like the rotary engine. Young guy, I want to get my first sports car. So I had that on my vision board. Like I cut out the poster from an ad, and I would look at it every day in front of me. And then what I would do is I would go to dealerships and test drive the car, okay? And I would go to different dealerships because you don't want to go back to the same dealership, they kick you out, right? So I got to go to different dealerships. And I would drive the car and I would visualize what is it like to drive the car. So I would visualize I'm in the car, I turn on the ignition, I can hear the engine. I know I can smell the leather, I know the color of the red, like everything. I know exactly what I want. And I pictured so many times, and I test drove it so many times. So here's what happens. When I made enough money, I went to the dealership, I said, I want the RX-8, these are the features, and these are what I want. And the sales guy was like, well, Mr. Locke, let me take you to a test drive and all that. I said, I don't need that. Well, let me talk about the features. I don't need that. I don't need any of that. So I said, let's do the paperwork. He said, it's the fastest close he's ever done. He's never sold a car this fast.
You knew exactly what you wanted.
I know exactly, because I've seen it a gazillion times in my mind. So here's what's fascinating. I got the key, I did get paperwork, right? I drove the car pick up the car off the parking lot. They happen to have the model right there. I drove off the parking lot of dealership. And Louis, guess how I felt?
The exact same you thought beforehand.
Calm.
Yeah, the exact same before when you were imagining it in your mind.
That's exactly because it's like in my mind, it's
like you were supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's already in my car. And I was actually months ago talking to my friend when I saw like the RX-8 people, a car drove by. I said, oh, that's my car. And my friend just laughed at me. He said, oh, that's not your car, Dan. So I said, that's my car. I'm not lying. It's just in my mind, it's my car. It's done. It's done.
It just hasn't got to me yet.
It just hasn't got to me yet. Now I've got the key. I drove it home, my pocket. I didn't feel a thing because it's already done in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's one example, but I did it so many times in my life. YouTube channel, when I started my YouTube channel, you know what my wife, Jenny, said? She said, who's going to watch your shit?
Wow.
Seriously, who's going to watch your shit? Who wants to watch you?
She sees you every day, so she's like, who wants to watch you?
She's teasing. She's teasing me. And I said, no, you don't understand. I said, I'm going to build my YouTube channel. No, it's saturated, it's not going to work. I said, listen to me, I'm going to get my first silver button.
100,000? Yeah.
100,000. I cut out the silver thing, right, put it on my wall vision board. I said, I'm going to get that. And then when I hit it, my wife is like, that's it, man. I'm going to get to the 1 million, subs. She's like, nah, who's going to watch this shit? And I had that goal, and the same thing happened again and again and again and again in my life. So now I have the new vision. I want to build a unicorn, right? A tech empire. I do exactly the same thing. I have my vision, I know, and then now I'm attracting the people that can help me do that. Now I'm looking at deals. I bought a couple deals already, going to that direction. So I act as if I'm already there. Then everything else falls into play. The people, the context, the relationships, the capital, they just come.
Skills, everything, yeah.
They just come.
What's the amount of money that, maybe it doesn't scare you, but let's just hypothetically, what's the amount of money that you're like, man, I don't have that yet, but that's a big number that maybe your billionaire friends have or whatever. You're like, gosh, that's a big number, and it's not in my net worth yet, but what is that number that scares you?
$1 billion.
Billion.
$1 billion, yeah.
What do you think it would take for you to get there in the next 3 years?
It would take me to do something quite very different from what I'm doing now. I remember when I was making six-figure income as a copywriter. Like, yeah, 20-somewhat years old. I mean, that's good. Like, six-figure.
It's great money.
Like, it's good money. I was happy, but then I knew in order to transition to the next level, I had to let go what I have. Like what got you here won't get you there. So I fired all my copywriting clients overnight, one night. I said, all gone. I'm going to focus on developing my own like online business. And I did it probably a few times in my career. Every single time I have to reinvent myself, I have to let go see, what's difficult. You have to let go of what works. So my biggest strength right now, what I have, is my social media presence. That's not going to get me to the B.
Really?
Nope.
Grant's getting pretty close.
Yeah, with raising capital, that's if it's just like influencer, right?
Right.
Like, if
I think he raised like $500 million, I think, from his.
That's good. That's a great model. Yeah. That's a great model, right? And something to emulate, but I might do it in software though, right? That's the only difference.
Right.
So I know it's not doing this, it's leveraging this could be okay, but I need to change what I do to get to that.
You need to let go of something. Level. You can't make YouTube videos all day and expect yourself to get to $1 billion unless you're Mr. Beast.
And then the business cannot be just about like just me. It needs to be something.
You got to scale yourself.
Yeah.
Gosh, isn't that interesting? The thing that like is allowing us to build and generate more wealth and revenue and opportunities is the personal brand, but it's going to have to like separate some or scale around, right?
And so what it's like this. My biggest strength is, my biggest skills is my ability to close. But if I could close and my team can close, I can't scale.
Can't do it.
So I need to have a closing team. So my biggest strength, once I get to the next stage, becomes my biggest bottleneck. In the same here, my biggest strength that got me to here will become my biggest bottleneck to go to the next level. So I'm aware of that, and I'm already saying, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to shift in order to get there? And I'm okay. I'm totally okay with that.
If you had hypothetical scenario, someone came to you and said, I'm gonna, I get a little morbid at times, but I'm gonna shoot you in your head and your entire everyone you love and everyone you know that you care about in 3 years. If you don't reach $1 billion net worth, what would change your mind now to let go of certain things? Like, what would you do in the moment from now into those 3 years in order to make sure that happened? If you had to, obviously you can take as long as you want, but if it had to be in 3 years,
I would probably. I'm already doing it, but I would speed up the pace of me letting go of things, the current operation, right, with the transition, and I would focus 100% on the just acquisition investment side, because that's the only way to get there from my perspective.
Acquisition meaning acquiring software companies that you can then
acquiring
feed.
Companies, and then put a group, and then you go from there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're already doing it.
Doing now.
You're already doing it, but you would just, if you had a gun to your head, you'd do it faster.
I'll do it faster. I would do it faster.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think is your biggest fear over the next 5 to 10 years as you go for the $1 billion mark and beyond and everything else you want to do?
Not so much the fear of business, the fear of or like life stuff. I don't think I have a lot of that. Where I think I also managed to balance quite good. Not a whole lot of fears, because I'm not attached. It's not like I got to get in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I don't really care about that. It's a challenge, as you know. It's more hey, I set the goal. Can I get there? Who do I have to be to get there? But it's also a little bit like, can I do it? Like, what's my potential? Like, I think I could, but could I do it? It's like YouTube. I think I could hit 1 million. Could I actually do it? Okay, I could, but can I get to the next level? It's more like that. Yeah.
How does someone overcome the identity of imposter syndrome once they've reached the 6-figure mark of copywriting and, but how could I get to $500,000 or $1 million? I could never do that, or I could never get to 10 million or 100 million or $1 billion. How do we overcome that identity of imposter syndrome that so many of us put on ourselves in the transition of life?
I'll share with you what works for me. It's interesting, because when I was making 6-figure, my mentor Alan, my first mentor, he invited me to a mastermind group. Okay, and it was like 5-6 guys, and I was the youngest guy. Like, I was young, and all these guys are like millionaires, successful business guys, way older than me. And I felt, you want to talk about imposter syndrome, I felt like, well, I don't belong here. I'm young, I'm not experienced, my business is only a few $100K, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. So I would be like almost like a mouse. I wouldn't speak, I would just take notes and they would talk and all that. And after a while, I was like, something clicked in me. I started taking notes. I started hearing the problems. I see how they solve problems. And just one day it clicked for me. These guys are just like me. They're not 10 times smarter. They don't work 10 times harder. They're just like me. And when I had that shift, suddenly the imposter syndrome disappears. Now I'm more vocal, now I'm sharing. I'm like, oh, Dan's got a good idea. Like, I'm sharing. And they naturally pull me up. They're natural. And now before you know, now looking back, today, looking back, that mastermind group, the very first mastermind group I belonged to, those guys, and we're still friends, by the way, after all these years. We're still good friends. What they have done in business, now looking back today, right? I'm looking at, okay, wow, like that to me now is a small business, right? So the same thing here, I'm looking at that next level, hang around with people at that level, and something will click for you. It's like, you know what? They're smart, but they're just people.
Right.
There's nothing they can do that I cannot do. Right? It's just like you met billionaires, you've met a number of them. Like, what are your thoughts? You see them at first like, oh, maybe they're like super crazy intelligent, right? But after you hang out with them, what are your thoughts?
They all have fears and doubts, and a lot of them are much older, and so they have a lot more time to be able to get there. And so I'm just like, okay, they've had time to get to where they are, and you always have something that most of them don't if they're much older than you, and that is you have time.
Yes,
they have more money, you have more time, and they, from what I've noticed, they almost admire the ability to be kind and curious about their success. They admire and appreciate the curiosity that someone can bring to them because they want to be able to share their story, their success, their skills. They want to be able to give it back, like you said. So I think when I come from a place of just gratitude and curiosity, I recognize, okay, these are usually older individuals who are 20, 30, 40 years older than me, and they don't have the time. You know, honestly, I could die tomorrow, but they don't have the youth like I do. And there's a mutual respect in the sense that, okay, I'm hungry, I'm going after something, they've done it. And as long as I have humility, they usually open up their fears and insecurities just like that I might have.
Yes, and do you find that are they like have 3 arms and 4 legs? Do they have 10 times more IQ? Right?
No, they all had challenges and adversity they had to overcome. And they all
usually they do very well in one sector, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they all kind of talk about what you said. They had to let go of something that was working at some point and reinvent to get to the next level.
Yes.
And always be scaling up their thinking, not holding on to old beliefs, but like scaling up to new thoughts, new processes. And it's always been about a team of people. You know, they never did it alone. Most of them, you know, they had bigger companies with thousands of employees or hundreds of employees to get there. So it's not about, whereas probably me and you in the beginning in our 20s was all about how can we develop a skill and do it on our own.
Yes.
And that can only take you to so far.
That becomes a bottleneck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's exactly that I think that's how we kind of eliminate or cure that imposter syndrome. When you hang around with people like that, they're just like me. They have the doubts, they have the fears, they have the struggles. Okay, like it's normal. And once we normalize it, then it's like, okay, I could see what are they doing? What are the models? What's their views of the world? I want to learn that. How they see the world, how they make decisions. And the more we do, then we'll get closer and closer. I got this from when people look at, like, let's say in our world, the influencer space, right? You have the friends, the colleagues we hang out with, right? We all know, right? That's who we hang out with. And we've been hanging out in here for a long time, right? When I joined YPO, when I hang around with executive CEOs of like massive companies, like when I have these two worlds collide, first of all, they don't know each other. In fact, they don't even speak the same language. It's like it's speaking two different languages. And I noticed this is fascinating. I'm kind of in the middle, like two worlds collide. Right? I see the finance, I see what they do, I see like the leadership, the management, I see the marketing, the creativity, the innovation from here. Like I see these, I'm like, this is powerful. And I kind of take both worlds. I'm like, what if this world knows more about this world, which they don't, and this world knows more about this world, wouldn't that be more effective? And I could see the potential of that to be able to do that. Taking something, a product, but you infuse it with digital marketing, branding, social media, how powerful that would be. But they don't talk to each other. So I see an opportunities there. That's how I see it. If I can marry the two and then do something from there.
You've been around a lot of wealthy people. What would you say are the 3 best habits of wealthy, rich individuals?
The myth that wealthy people are greedy, the wealthier they are, almost all of them, they are the happiest, most humble, and kindest people I have met. I've never been by people in this. I have been a lot by people in like with no money.
First, I want to ask if you can talk a little bit about what that plan is, why it's more powerful than other morning routines that people might talk about. And then I want to ask you a follow-up question on it after that.
You know, Louis, I've been teaching morning routine for 24 years. I wrote a book years ago called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, where I talked about the ritual of early awakening, and I talked about the 5 a.m. club. You know, the Spartan warriors, I learned a lot from them. These are human beings that were fierce in their resolve to do amazing things. The Spartan warriors had nobility and honor. Look at the world we're in right now. We need to do what it takes to become stronger as well as more compassionate. The Spartan warriors' mothers used to actually say to them, come back on your shield, come back victorious, or don't come back at all.
Wow.
And the Spartan warriors also used to say, sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war. And so we live in a world, obviously there's COVID, but I think this is a time of incredible unrest. We've got social unrest for all of the injustice that has been out there for so many years. We've also got a financial crisis, which I believe is going to get much worse. Really? And for sure, I'm no financial expert or an economist, but I mean, if you look at all the quantitative easing happening right now, and if you look at the low interest rates and all the encouragement that we buy more and spend more right now to pump and jumpstart the economy, we're just pushing the inevitable collapse further down the road, I believe. So I think we have the coronavirus, and we've have some early optimistic trials on the vaccine, which I'm very encouraged about. And then we've got all these other things, including an environmental catastrophe in the making. So with that context, I think one of the most important things a human being can do is press the pause button each morning while the rest of the world is asleep and ask yourself, how can I fortify my mindset? How can I insulate my heart set? How can I optimize my health set? How can I escalate my soul set, the 4 interior empires that I've introduced in the 5 a.m. club, so that when I walk out in the world, I'm creative, I'm productive, I'm compassionate, I radiate positivity, and I have resilience in case I get knocked down. And so I think one of the best ways you can do that is this 20-20-20 formula that I've been teaching to the billionaires, the NBA stars, the film icons, and many of the most successful people on the planet for, as I say, 24 years. And very high level, Louis, the 20-20-20 formula is simply this. You get up at 5 a.m., and anyone can get up at 5 a.m. One of the gifts of a human being is neuroplasticity. We are built to change. So please, I would encourage, if we recite our excuses long enough, we actually believe they're true. We are built to change. We are built to grow. We are built to own our heroic nature. And so according to University College London, if we do any practice or habit for 66 days, we reach a point of automaticity where it becomes easier to do that new habit than not do the new habit. Once you wire in the new habit, for the first 20 minutes, 5 to 5:20, you move because you can release BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes neurogenesis. It optimizes your brain. If you move first thing in the morning, you release serotonin, which makes you feel good. You release dopamine, which sets you up for inspiration. Second, we can get into it more deeply, but second pocket from 5:20 to 5:40 is reflect. While the rest of the world is asleep, there's such quietude in the air. This is where you can pray, you can meditate, write in a journal, sit in quietude so that you're focused and living your life and your priorities through the day. And then the final pocket of the 20-20-20 formula that I talk about in the 5 a.m. Club is grow. You'll never get old if you grow. You'll never become obsolete in your business, even in a time of great volatility, if you're growing. You'll always stay happy if you grow. So 20 minutes at the end of this victory hour, that's what I call it. You spend some time listening to a podcast like Lewis Howes on the School of Greatness, a man adored by the majority of humanity. You listen to an audiobook, you read a book, you study your battle charts. And anyway, that's a really rough general way to explain the 2020 formula that is currently helping millions of people navigate this hard time.
Does it matter the sequencing of 2020? Do you need to move first? Can you meditate first? Do you grow, or is that a process that is proven scientifically?
The process has been proven in the trenches of elite performance for a long time with my clients.
Yeah.
And having said that, I would say the 20-20-20 formula is minimum viable morning routine. Mm-hmm. And you're a biohacker. I'm a biohacker. I'm a productivity hacker. I'm a life hacker. And so I would say, do what's right for you. It's like this whole field of personal mastery and leadership that we inhabit. I'm not one to say you must do this, because we all have different learning types. We're all on different journeys. Mm-hmm. Someone might be right now upgrading their spirituality so they connect with their crusade and their higher power in this time of house arrest. Mm-hmm. Other people are creating their masterwork right now. So I think we have to find the morning routine that works best for us.
What about people that say, you know what, I'm just a night person. I think at night, I work out at night. That's when I meditate. I strategize the next day at night, and I've tried the morning. It just doesn't work for me. What would you say to that?
I've had a lot of night owls who have.
That's a great excuse, isn't it, to be a night owl?
I've had a lot of night owls who have said, I could never be a morning person. I've had a lot of people who've said, grandma couldn't get up early, grandpa couldn't get up early, my parents couldn't get up early, I don't have early rising genes, And what I would say is, if you don't read that book you've been resisting because you don't think it's for you, you might just miss your new favorite book. Mm. If you fall in love with your most closely cherished beliefs and you're not open to trying new things, you might miss your trying your new favorite food. If you say, well, here's the kind of friends that I hang out with and I'm not open to anyone else, you might miss that new friend or that new mentor who will transform the way you run your craft and live your life. And it's the same for the morning routine, the 5 a.m. Club. I mean, it's just, I've had so many people read the book, run the models in the book, live the message, and achieve what they never thought they'd achieve. Yeah. And so what I would say to a night owl, or a lot of people say shift workers or whatever, I would say give it a try. And don't just give it a try for a week, give it a try for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the 66-day minimum, and then judge by your results.
Hey, it's Lewis here, and I would love to connect directly with you. Text me the word YouTube to my number 614-350-3960 to receive weekly inspirational messages from me. I did this I was getting up at not not that I was in competition, but I was getting up at 4:50 a.m., Robin, for a few months, a couple of years ago, and I was doing a 5 a.m. workout, and that's how I do it. So I was spending an hour in the morning working out at 5 a.m. Then I was coming back and meditating and strategizing for the day. And it was extremely challenging for me for the first month. But then it got better and better. And I started to make it something that I was proud of, or I would call it beating the sun. I was like, I'm going to beat the sun tomorrow. And I'm going to wake up, and the first 20 minutes are not fun for at least a month. And maybe it's never fun in the first few minutes because it always feels more comfortable to sleep until your body really starts to find a routine and a rhythm that, okay, you're just going to bed by 8 or 9, and you start to appreciate that process in a different way. You might have loved being up late before in its own way, but this is a new way to find appreciation. So I'm not in that space right now. My girlfriend moved in, and I said, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to sleep in a little bit with her and experience something different. But I tell you what, I always feel more productive when I'm consistently waking up earlier, even if it's uncomfortable.
Well, there's a line in the 5 a.m. Club, which is all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end.
Yeah.
And so you were telling me, I don't think you'd mind, but before we
go ahead
started recording, you were sharing how you're running more, and it's like the first time you run. It's like the first time you ski. It's like the first time you fall in love. It's like the first time you play chess. I mean, we stumble before we walk, and then on shaky legs, we embrace the new habit. And that's the very nature of personal transformation. I mean, every master was once a beginner. Every professional was once an amateur. And so this idea that we need to be masters right out of the gate, that we need to, get up at 5 a.m. and instantly it should be easy. Well, falling like a great relationship isn't easy. Building a world-class business that stands the test of time isn't easy. Becoming a maestro or any kind of a virtuoso, it's always a process. I mean, I know you interviewed Kobe. Well, I think what made Kobe was his intense, rigorous practice over many, many years.
Yeah.
He just out-practiced everyone around him. And I think, we live in a world of easy. We want the easy morning routine versus the morning routine that'll give us the greatest payoff. And there's a reason, Lewis, that a lot of the great saints, sages, poets, military leaders, world changers got up at 5 a.m. and before the sun. I think it's the quietest time of the day. If you look at willpower researchers, we wake up with the most willpower when we first wake up. You have the most mental focus before the phenomena of attention residue takes over and cognitive bandwidth is high. And, it's been profound for me.
How does someone be consistent in their discipline? When most people will say, I'm going to do this for 3 months or 6 months, but then interruption, COVID, I got sick, someone in the family needs me, and I'm up all night. And what's the difference between what Kobe did for 2 decades in the NBA, where he was disciplined? How is he able to stay motivated, and how are the greatest able to stay motivated, where others seem to lack the motivation and discipline to be consistent? Because anyone can do it for a few weeks, but how do you do it for years and decades? What's the difference between that?
It's an excellent question. And I would say, first of all, in COVID right now, may we give ourselves permission to be gentle with ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think, even this whole idea that we must be machines in terms of our morning routine or even our pre-sleep rituals. These messages that are out there that we must be monomaniacally consistent and flawless human beings for us to wear our badges of honor in society as leading members of the cult of productivity. I'll confess right here to you right now, I sure am no guru, and I slip, I slip on the 5 a.m. club. I have had those evenings where I feel like a few extra chocolate croissants. And I just think we must give ourselves permission to be humans. I think, I was flying on a little plane from White River, South Africa to this game reserve, and the pilot let me fly the plane for a little while. And he kept on saying, the winds are going to push you off course, and just, keep that, I think it was the altimeter or whatever, but just keep it in the center. And so the currents, Lewis would pull me off course, and then I just, look at the dial and I'd come back. And I really believe, that's how we live our days as human beings. I mean, I'll get up and sometimes there's a current, like you said, a child who kept you up at night, or it's the pandemic. So maybe you're worried, or maybe you've lost a job. And so those currents will take us off course. And so our job is just to steer back on course each day. We're not perfect human beings.
Yeah. So it's okay to sleep in once a week, or to miss the routine once in a while. It's not going to affect your overall, results or process. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I think, if you want to commit to the 5 a.m. club, you want to commit to a world-class morning routine, because the way you begin the day profoundly sets up the way your day unfolds. And this is not anecdotal. You get up in the morning and you run the 20-20-20 formula that I explain in the book. You will create the flow state. You will release serotonin. You will release dopamine. You will release BDNF. You will increase your metabolic rate. You will boost creativity. You will increase your willpower. All those things. I mean, we all have the ability as human beings to arrive at our own original form of greatness. We have not been schooled. We have not been taught. A lot of us have not been mentored on the mindsets, heart sets, routines, rituals that will create and allow us to live our personal genius.
I think you should always want to earn more. Not to have it, but to be able to use it, but it's going to cause you to reach. Money is a reward received for service rendered, so you got to provide more service. So whatever you're doing, you got to do it better than you're now doing it.